Uh-huh. All of it else, she has a good.
I don't call it. We got
Good evening, good evening. Good evening and welcome to Choices on AM 970 WSTX. We're also streaming live on Facebook as far as I can see. Um, I'm here in the studio this evening. We're running a little late. We are running we're running pretty late actually, We had some technical difficulties, and so it's just Love and myself here for now. I haven't seen Shanice pop up, and I know at least one individual is under the weather. We had several persons under the weather last week, and so we're trying our best this evening. Mandy, you want to say something?
Good evening, listening audience. I hope everybody is having a great Friday the 13th.
Go ahead. You hope everybody's having a great Friday the 13th. Friday the 13th. What's it about Friday the 13th?
So superstitious. We had all the goblins and the goblins out.
Alrighty.
Yeah.
Well, anyway, I'm not into that part of superstition. I don't know if I am superstitious. I know that there were some mystical things, mysterious things in life that most people just simply say they don't believe in this, they don't believe in that. But I know I've had enough experience not to believe in certain things or to know of the existence of certain things, things that are out of the ordinary. So, it is what it is. However, I'm not given to superstition per se, but I do know that miracles do happen. I also know that sometimes what we don't put in the category of miracles, we call it magical happenings. I'm not going to get into the differences between that. Some people go down, they take a deep dive into the rabbit hole, which is what I would hope that we can do this evening, if we can get Shanice to come on.
Shanice, I just saw her.
You just saw her?
Yeah.
Shanice, are you there? Are you hearing us? Shanice? Okay, I don't know. I'm not hearing you, and we are here all by ourselves right now in the studio. We're trying to manage them. How did we? Let me see something here. Go ahead, Shanice, speak. Let me see if I can hear you. No, we still not hearing. Huh?
You trying something up?
Yeah, I'm trying to bring up this thing. It's humming. Okay, so that's a little too high. Okay, yeah, Shanice, go ahead, say something. No? She's saying something? Sure,
she said she's. Oh, damn, we got there's something. She said she's backstage.
Right, we have a little technical difficulty. We're having technical difficulties. We're still trying to take care of these things. Hopefully, We're trying to get in touch with technical support right now to see how we can get this thing going. Um, you got to stay calm in the midst of the storm, which is what I'm trying to do. Anyway, as I was saying, I'm gonna go on, you know, holding a conversation while some Mandy is trying to get in touch with technical support to see how we can get Shanice to connect with us. By the way, the last 2 Fridays we weren't here. We didn't get to make it because one, um, it was my birthday, and so we had other plans that we had made. Hence the reason why we didn't have the show. And then Friday of last week, we had all kinds of situations again. People were under the weather. People are still under the weather, and so we didn't get to make it. Thank God. Thank God. Some of us have remained well and healthy at this point in time, and we know that, you know, as we move into the spring, people come down with all kinds of allergies and viruses and what have you, and so sometimes we're just not, you know, in top form, if I may. We find ourselves a little under the weather, and so it is what it is. But anyway, we're here this evening. We're still trying to put things together. But whilst we're trying to put things together, I want to discuss a few things, talk about a few things, because I can do that. I think I can. Mandy, I just saw in a thread recently where there was some discussion. The guy posted a video where he speaks about Cain and Abel at a time when there were only 4 persons on earth, according to his line of reasoning. The 4 persons on earth were Adam and Eve, Cain and Abel.
Mm-hmm.
And Cain killed Abel. Now, if you've got 4 persons on earth and one kills another, that means that you have actually killed 25% of the population on earth. And so he makes that comparison where he says that, you know, you look at all the killings that you have, people who go on a massacre spree, if I may, and they kill so many persons. You look at some wars and where thousands are killed. He's saying that does not equate in terms of raw numbers per capita.
Mm-hmm.
When you look at, you can have, let's say you have 3 million people in an area and you had to kill 200. That does not equate to what Cain did, because Cain actually, by killing 1 out of 4, he killed 25% of the population. Wow. Now this is just what they call a hyperbolic. Hyperbole is what it is called, or it's real serious exaggeration. It is also, it borders on comedy, if I may, and especially the way how the guy presented it. But anyway, that led to some discussions where people were saying that, well, if there were just 4 persons on earth, how did Cain, after he killed Abel, get a wife in the land of Nod? And some have suggested that Cain married one of his sisters, but there is no indication, there is no evidence in the Bible that there were sisters at the time that the brother could have married one of them. And so I was asked to join that deep dive down the rabbit hole. I didn't do so, but I think I can share a few things with us this evening. We still haven't seen, is that Shanice out there? No? Well,
yeah.
Okay. Mm-hmm. Can you, Shanice, say hello? Let me see if we can hear you.
Hello, good night, everybody.
All right, now we got you. All right. Well, it's good. Well, I hope you heard what I was saying. I was talking about a discussion, some discussion they were having in a chat about Cain killing Abel. And if there were 4 persons at a time, and he did that, this was such a dastardly thing to do, so egregious that he actually killed 25% of the population at the time. Nobody in history has done that. And like I said, this bordered on comedy, in my humble determination. and it's extreme exaggeration. Hyperbole is what I think they call it in literature. But here is the thing. So I was asked to join the discussion. I did not at the time, but I want to share this with those who are listening. The exaggeration aside, the comic aspect of the whole thing, the reality is that people need to understand it was not just one single woman and one man created in the beginning. And I'm going to tell you guys why I say that. In Genesis chapter 1, the narrative is given where El, or El Elyon, the Most High, he's speaking to others and he says, let us make man in our image and after our likeness. Now, Christians tell you when the statement is made, let us make man, that refers to the Holy Spirit and the Son, Yeshua. I disagree. There is a council of gods. When you go to Psalm, I can't remember the exact Psalm right now, but there is a Psalm which speaks of the council of gods coming together and certain decisions being made relative to the nations on earth. So it's clear that there is a council of gods. And people who have dived into other books, other writings, because there are other sacred writings, they'll talk about galactic federations and other movements that you have with higher beings. So Genesis chapter 1 involves the creation of people in general, a large number of people, male and female. That's why you have the different races, because the Elohim, they all do not look the same. I mean, yes, created in image and likeness, but distinction in terms of the features that distinguish, where we bring a racial perspective into it. Japanese have their specific look. The Chinese, the Caucasians, the Africans, and the American, or Amerindians is what you call them, the American Indians, Caribs, Arawaks, Sioux, and all the other tribes that you have. They all have distinct look. You go back to Australia and you look at the Aborigines. They also have the distinct look, but they are all human. And so the same thing holds true for the Elohim who actually made them. Now in Genesis chapter 2, that's a special case where a particular pair, well, first the man was created, then a woman, and the Hebrew does give you the distinction in terms of Adam in general and Adama, which is more particular, singular. And that one Adam and Eve was supposed to have been a model, an example for the rest of us. The Most High was going to teach them how to live life in accordance with his laws, his requirements, and they were supposed to be like model citizens of earth to teach the other earthly men and women who were there. But they failed. And that's why that particular Adam is referred to the first Adam. And so we have a second Adam who has come in the person of Yeshua the Messiah. So the whole process was to teach those two to live lives that are acceptable and in accordance with the dictates, if I may, the requirements of the Most High. And they, of course, failed, falling into temptation by Satan and disobedience as a result of that. That's where it was. So that the belief that it was just one pair, and from that one pair, all of us have come, that's not the case. We need to, when we take a deep dive, we need to do the research to find out what really transpired. And so the first Adam, which is the pair in the Garden of Eden, that pair failed. Christ came to then take over and teach us the way we should live in accordance with the principles of the Most High. And that's where we're at right now. So you guys get it? Now, I would dare say that folks need to understand, you can't take, first of all, the Bible is not the only source of sacred writings. It's not the only source of instructions and information that has been relayed to mankind by higher beings. There is a book called the Book of Urantia that, relates a lot to mankind in terms of what is actually going on and how the earth was supposedly colonized by higher beings. In addition to that, the Indian writings, Bhagavad Gita, Upanishads, shed so much to us in that regard. Then you have the writings that come from the Egyptians, and other groups, other ancient groups, ancient civilizations. The Chinese have a lot to offer, as well as the Japanese. Now these, and even some of the lesser known groups from Mesoamerica, lesser known groups from other parts of Africa, the Dogon people in Africa, all of these persons have left a lot of information to us in terms of the interaction between higher beings, the people, the sky people, and mankind on the planet. So we really need to dive into these things, acquire the information, and know that it's not a lot of what is written in the Bible is in codes. You have to have some level of discernment to really peel back the different layers of the onion and to see what's really going on, what's really taking place. But I just want to share with you two and those who are listening that there were people there before us, large numbers, not just simply one pair in the garden. And the other thing I want to share is that if it was just God planted a garden and he put all kinds of fruit trees and plants in that garden, does that mean that the rest of the earth was just an abandoned wasteland? No. You go back again to the first chapter of Genesis and it talks about how the trees and the plants after the various kind came about. That's why everything is given to you in terms of kind. Every animal after its kind, because that was already established. And I am a little foggy here in terms of the biology of kind, and I forget, I guess, genus, kind, what have you. I'm kind of foggy right now, but those of us who have studied biology, you know where I'm coming from. So that's my take on that. It wasn't just in the Garden of Eden. The Garden of Eden was actually like an experimental station and an experimental enclave where you had that pair, and they did have animals in there with them. They had special plants and trees in there with them. They were supposed to live a life, an exemplary life, so those on the outside eventually would be able to copy, emulate what they were doing, and so all of mankind would have been living in harmony with the principles of the Most High. They failed. Yeshua has come to now teach us how to do that. So we have to embrace the teachings of Yeshua to do so. And so I just wanted to share that with you guys because of what I came across. Any reactions from you?
You're talking about a dome within the earth? Like there was in a dome within the earth?
Well, it was a separate section of earth, a particular area. Eden, in Eden, east of Eden. And the Bible does give you some geographical parameters in terms of the rivers that came through there. I'm going to show you where that garden was, and some have intimated that it is in the general area of Iraq, where Iraq is located, around in the Middle East.
Well, what I was talking about is that, since God have this special Adam and Eve in that garden, and they have people outside. So I was thinking, like, he created a dome,
yeah,
for that special Adam to live in, and the outside was like you have like where you have a dome, like when you have
I understand what you're saying, right?
Yeah,
could have been that there was because there is an expression used in where like reference to firmament. I don't know that firmament would have been the form of the dome that we're talking about, but more specifically, if I gather what you're saying, it was a restricted area, and it might have been dome-like in structure, if I may. Clearly, there was egress. You know, you could enter, and you could exit, because when after Adam and Eve went wrong, when they disobeyed, notice that they were driven out of the garden.
Exactly.
And cherubims were placed at the gate, at the entrance, so nobody could come in.
So I was doing a little bit of research on YouTube one time, and that's why I don't know exactly. They were saying that garden was, like how you would say that God banish it from mankind can't know where it's at, but it's there sitting on earth somewhere, guarded by two angels or whatever, and the Euphrates River, and I think is a Tigris that runs through that garden. So where's Gethsemane? You see, this is a confusing because
the Gethsemane, the Garden of Gethsemane was in ancient Israel. That's where it is located. That's where Yeshua the Messiah went to pray the night before he was arrested for his crucifixion. As a matter of fact, I think he was in the garden with his disciples when they came to arrest him. But Gethsemane was in ancient Israel.
Okay.
Now we're gonna we might just take a deep dive in that area, but before we go there, Shanice, you have anything you want to? Wow, we just Shanice went down. Okay, you're back. Yes, Shanice, anything you want to say or ask? Wait, she went down again. Yeah, but anyway, let me just continue. What happened is that, and biblical narratives are so deep, touch upon so many things. Some will tell you that the Bible is not history. That's not true. The Bible does have historical aspects to it. The Bible does have poetry. And of course, it also contains a number of commandments given to mankind. It contains prophecy. It has all kinds of stuff in there. And for those who make you think that there isn't a historical aspect to the Bible, they're not right, because archaeology has proven some of the things written in the Bible. Archaeologists have uncovered a number of items that coincide with what the Bible actually says. Yes, Shanice, she went on again?
No, she's
yeah, Shanice. All right. While Shanice is still there, let me just say that one of the things, and I really wanted to get into a discussion of what is happening in the Middle East right now. With the escalation of conflict over there and how it impacts us all over the world. I want us to get into that. I was really hoping that we had some of the other guys here with us so we could really dive deeply into it, but we'll touch upon it because it is important, and it's good that we should have a perspective that is rooted in concrete evidence, information, statistical things that we can look at and see how we can draw that into the realm of the discussion, but we'll get into that. Shanice, I'm still trying to get you. I didn't hear. Wow. Every time I try to get Shanice to come in, we get a blackout. But we'll see. Shanice, if you're hearing next time, just jump in and begin to say what you have to say. Now, let me just get back into this here, Mandy. And before, as an overview, let me just say this here to those who are listening. And folks, if you want to call and share with us, feel free to give us a call. 773-0390 and 773-0490 are the numbers to call. Here at Choices, we usually engage in discussions that allow us to examine the basis of decisions and choices of actions that we make when confronted with various situations. In the past, we have considered how young people under the age of 25 may be more prone to making poor or unwise choices or decisions due to inadequate brain development. However, all persons, regardless of age, are apt to make mistakes or poor decisions from time to time. And so, while I was considering the program for this evening and the current conflict or the escalation of conflict over in the Middle East, I took a second look at some factors that may influence decisions. And it's important for us to look at that because we're going to see how the playbook, which is being used in the Middle East right now, and the principal players, how they're all being influenced by a number of factors. So we're going to look at that. In a nutshell, I was able to glean some things. When making a decision, we form opinions and choose actions by way of mental processes that are influenced by biases, reason, emotions, memories. We may also be influenced by internal emotional pressures as well as external pressures and influences. All of these things will have an impact, will have some degree of, effect when you're making decisions. So hopefully we can look at what's happening out there in the Middle East, and we can look at the powerful individuals involved and try to see if we can somehow be that bold, be that how should I put it? Have that kind of mindset where we can somehow read into their minds and see what may be influencing them to take the actions that they're taking. And we're not going to restrict that just to the United States and its partners in the Middle East and Iraq. We'll go beyond that. We'll look at Europe, the nations of Europe. We'll look at the Caribbean area, the nations of the Caribbean area, South America, the Japanese, the Chinese, India, Pakistan, and see if we can somehow figure what make these guys tick into either saying certain things, taking certain actions, or just being sort of like, complacent, saying nothing, doing nothing, but just simply observing what's going on. So we'll look at that. Shanice, are you ready to share something with us?
I'm here.
Okay, so I hope you heard all what I have to say about the biblical angle that we can approach things from, and what I have to say in terms of mankind on the planet, and the reality is that we're on the planet, we have to live life, we have to interact with each other. I just looked at the term international recently. And generally, when people speak of international, we're thinking of, abroad, overseas, not necessarily within our immediate circle. But the word international really refers to interactions amongst nations, different nations, so that you may have international dialogue, activity right in the Caribbean region, and it may extend beyond that to include other parties in other parts of the world. When we speak of global matters, that tends to present a broader picture. When you're speaking about global affairs, it involves the entire world community. So I wanted to put these things in perspective. But here we have a situation in the Middle East. It's a conflict that has escalated to a point where it impacts everybody on a global basis. It's not exactly like what happened between Russia and Ukraine. The Russia-Ukraine conflict did not, bring out the kind of, how should I put it, implications for the entire world as what is going on right now between Iran, Israel, America, and other partners as well. This is so serious. I can tell you all right now that I ordered something on the 20th of February. Today I'm checking to see what's the status of this thing, and it has not been shipped. And I know the reason why it has not been shipped is because of the ongoing conflict. Because that item is supposed to be coming out of China. And so clearly, we're being impacted by the conflict. Before I go any further, I'm going to ask you guys in what ways you see the conflict impacting us in America, in the Caribbean to begin with. We're going to leave Europe, China, India, Pakistan, and all of them out for the time being. But how do you all see that conflict impacting us in America and in the Caribbean region?
Well, prices have gone up.
Mm-hmm.
You understand?
Gas prices, food.
Yep. So we're talking about the global economy. The economy is being affected by what's going on. You understand? And I think that President Trump and the guy for Iran, they don't care about the human life. Because right now, Iran is showing that they have over 200 civilians dead. So right now, human life is not
of concern for them.
Exactly. You understand?
We do have reports of
casualty.
School children being killed.
Yeah.
And that's sad.
Yeah. Schools having been bombed in Iran, and school children having been killed. Now, my understanding is that the President of the United States has said that it is the Iranians themselves, their drones going astray, missing the intended target, and hitting their own people.
Wow.
That's what the President of the United States has said. But of course, if he says that, the Iranians will say something else.
But it looks as though they all are fighting about oil. Oil is the biggest commodity right now.
This is what
You
Trump
understand?
is.
Go ahead.
No, I just wanted to say quickly, this is what President Trump's main target is. He's after oil reserves.
So hold on. If we're saying that the president is about oil and oil reserves, and I'm not disputing that. In other areas, I can see actions he has taken that may bring oil into sharp focus in the discussion. But that war in Iran did not begin with the president with the United States of America. It began with Israel.
Yes.
So oil was not a factor.
But Israel and Iran had been fighting for over 50 years or so.
Israel has had conflicts with Arab nations over the years.
Exactly.
That perhaps goes back to the Bible.
I think they're fighting for land. I'm saying land because Israel maybe one figure, because Israel is actually smaller than all of the rest of the place. It's smaller than Iran and Saudi
Arabia and all of that.
Yeah. So I figure, that Israel right now is targeting other countries.
I'm gonna come to that. Shanice, let me hear what input you have to share, if any.
Well, as far as the war affecting us, one of the obvious ways is that everything, all prices have gone up tremendously. But I would like to say that being here in the United States at this point, it's a very uneasy feeling. When we were in school, we were taught that other countries, their media isn't showing what's going on in the world and stuff like that. Well, at this point in time, our media isn't showing us what's going on in that part of the world. We honestly don't know what's going on. We don't know what to believe. We're hearing, the casualties, there were only 7 casualties, whereas people across the world are saying, hey, there's a hospital in Germany that had to shut down that was because they had so many US soldiers coming into their hospital. So we don't know what to believe. Our media is censored. We're in a state where we just don't know what to do.
But Al Jazeera gives quite a bit of information whenever they've got it. They share with us. The reality is that nations usually tend to downplay the impacts that they suffer. They will tell you sometimes that, for example, the United States may well take the position that when civilians get killed in war, they may call it collateral damage. That was not the intention. But in war, these things do happen. They may tend to say that. And certainly, because of the need to protect certain national interests, the United States may not give you the full details in terms of injuries being suffered. But we know that we're hearing from other sources right now that the injuries or the casualties on the American side exceed the 7 service personnel we have been told who are actually, killed. So, there is the untold story. We have to face that. But my point is that the war did not begin. The conflict between Israel and Iran didn't just begin now. When you go back to the Bible, you'll find out that Abraham had children along the lines of the Hebrews, because Abraham was a Hebrew, the people across the river. That's what it really meant. Abraham had children with an Arab woman, an Egyptian woman, Hagar. That's how Ishmael came into the picture. Ishmael is Arab, as opposed to Isaac, who is he's the one from whom the Jewish line comes. Now, until you had Jacob being born, and Jacob and Esau were brothers, but they had their differences, however, and the differences in particular that began in the womb, as a matter of fact. But Esau also chose to marry people referred to as Gentiles. Esau married women that his parents did not approve of. Jacob, on the other hand, who has a biblical reputation which is not all that nice, he stole the brother's birthright. In other words, he stole Esau's birthright over a bowl of lentil soup. Well, not just lentil soup, because there was, but anyway, the story says that it's over a bowl of lentil soup that he sold his birthright. Esau sold the birthright. Jacob tricked him into it. Jacob also did other things. Jacob worked for his uncle Laban. He was tending the sheep for Laban. And that's when I speak about magical things and miraculous things that we don't always understand. Jacob made a deal with his uncle that he was going to work for him for X number of years, and he tending the sheep. And if all the sheep were born according to the regular pattern of sheep they had, that stayed with Laban. Those that came out with stripes, or spots, would belong to Jacob. And of course, Laban looked at the sheep and figured, man, what's this guy saying? How is he going to get sheep that we don't have any looking like them right now? So he took the deal. But what Jacob did was that whenever the sheep were in heat, getting ready to mate, he took some branches and he put a design on the branches and he put them in the water so that when the sheep came to drink, it impacted them. And it impacted the offspring. So the offspring were born with some stripes, spots, etc. And that's how he came to have sheep. And so much so that Laban's children accused him of stealing the father's sheep. There is all of that in the biblical narrative. Now, some will say, well, this is all poppycock. But let me show you how. And that's why I told you guys, I'm not superstitious, but I've known of experiences that have led me to certain determinations, conclusions, if I may. There is a young man I knew when I grew up. He had an image on his back. And the image was that of a rooster spreading or a bird spreading its wings. It was said that it was like a rooster spreading its wings. And the story went that when the mother was in labor, she actually, in those days, people gave birth to the children at home. And you're in a bedroom, the bedroom has a window, a door which is open, you can see what's happening outside. So the story went that she actually saw a rooster spreading its wings, and that image ended up being on the child. Those you might have heard of people. One of my sisters has a birthmark on the leg, which looks like yogurt. People made yogurt, homemade yogurt, and my mother loved that. And it is said that because she always had how do you put it, like a craving for yogurt at the time, that this ended putting a mark on the child. So we have those situations. And so Jacob did what he did. He got to have, that helped him get wealthy, But anyway, it's Jacob who later on wrestles with an angel. He thought he was wrestling his brother Esau at the time because it was nighttime when the being approached him and he thought it was his brother. Wrestled with the angel and heard us again. It's approaching daybreak. And the angel says to him, release me. It's almost the breaking of dawn. I got to go. And then Jacob realizes that it's not a human being he's wrestling with. So he holds on. And he says, I'm not going to release you until you give me a blessing. The angel did do something to him in the hollow of the leg. And there's a story about that. I'm not going to get into that anyway. But that kind of like put him in a situation where he buckled, but he held on. And so the angel said to him, you have wrestled, you have wrestled with God. You have wrestled with Elohim. And you have prevailed. So from here on, your name will no longer be Jacob, but Israel. That's how Israel came into being. And so the 12 sons that Jacob went on to have, because Jacob had 12 sons, they are the 12 sons of Israel. You have the 12 tribes. You have some who can identify themselves, and the Caucasians in particular like to give you a rundown to show you how they comprise the 12 tribes of Israel. Those, the Frenchmen, the Spaniards, the English, and all of that, they'll run that to you and tell you these are from the tribes of Israel. The Africans have a different point of view. The Africans believe that you're going to find the tribes of Israel in Africa. But be it what it may, we came to a point where, according to the biblical narrative, Israel was dispersed to all parts of the world. And so the nation of Israel no longer existed until the League of Nations, the United Nations, came together in 1948 and established Israel as a nation. Israel was reborn, if I may, as a nation in 1948 due to arrangements from the United Nations. People who have gone deep into it will tell you that the Israeli people in Israel today, they are not true Jews. They are not real Israel, but they are Ashkenazi Jews. They don't come from the known tribes of Israel that we know, that have their names after the sons of Jacob, but they are referred to as Ashkenazi Jews, a special implant, not real Jews. And then I can give you several things in the Bible. The Bible speaks of a group of people who say they are Jews, but they are not real Jews. They are the synagogue of Satan. The Bible says that in the book of Revelation. I think both in Revelation chapter 2 and chapter 3, that is mentioned. And then there is a story about, that was given first to, this is so deep, that was given to Abraham in a dream about the times of the Gentiles and when that would come to an end. And then Isaiah and Jeremiah both pick up on that, and they speak about the time of the Gentiles again, and Jerusalem being trodden underfoot by the Gentiles. And it is believed by many that this is taking place right now, and that we're shaping up for end time situations. I can get into a lot of things and tell you all what's my take in terms of the President of the United States, the nation of the United States, and how the book of Revelation speaks about America. It speaks about the president or the presidency of America in relations to geopolitics, what's happening in the world today. I can get into that. I try not to. I try not to go that route. But clearly, a lot of what you see happening between Israel today and the Arab nations goes back to biblical times. And the struggle continues. It's a struggle over land. When you look at where Israel is located, Israel is boxed into a corner by Arab nations. You know, it's all Arab nations surrounding Israel and have Israel boxed into a corner. Thank God that today you have a number of friendly Arab nations. They're friends of the United States of America, and the United States of America is a friend of Israel. And don't get me wrong, I'm not, don't think that, you know, I'm being biased here. I'm just giving you the reality of the situation. And so as a result, Israel has a measure of safety. But Israel has been in an ongoing conflict with certain Arab extremist groups, and not all extremist groups, because I don't know if I want to call the Palestinians extremists. When you talk to Palestinians and they tell you what has been happening with them in Israel, how they're often mistreated by the modern day Israelis. When you speak about, how should I put it? Sons of Israel, daughters of Israel, Jews, if I may, who came from Ethiopia into modern day Israel, and they tell you sometimes how they have been discriminated against by the Israeli people. You know, it's not a nice picture. It is not a nice picture. When Palestinians who were born in Israel tell you what's required of them in terms of being able to travel, it's not nice. But the ugliness is all over. Yeah. In America, when you hear Black Americans tell you of their experiences, not just today, but in times past, what they had to put up with, what the Klan did to Black Americans, lynched them, burned their homes, put crosses, burning crosses on their property and so on. It's not been nice. We as humans, we've not been nice to each other. And so it continues. But what really happened here with this ongoing conflict, it started, I think was it sometime last year when the guys went into Israel, kidnapped a number of Israelis, took them back into Gaza. Israel retaliated, and Israel retaliated in a manner where Israel didn't feel that, well, I've done enough. I think it got to a point of overkill, and Israel continued. And boy, you got to realize, man, that what is called the Jewish, how you call those guys in Congress, the Jewish lobby? The Jews are powerful. The Jews are powerful, not just in Israel. They're powerful in America. They're powerful in England. They're powerful in certain countries. They have been powerful. They have been persecuted. You just have to read about what Hitler did to the Jews. They've had difficulties, but they are a people of the book. Even though some say that those in Israel right now, they're fakes. They are people of the book.
They're the chosen people of
they're
God.
They're chosen. They're chosen. And Israel today is not just physical, it's also spiritual, so that all nations have been given an invitation to accept the way of the Creator Most High, and you can become a part of the Israel of the Creator, be it on a spiritual basis, if I may. So I have tried to put things in perspective. I don't want people to think that I'm being biased one way or the other, but based upon knowledge and information I have acquired over the years, I've tried to give you guys a perspective, if I may, a sense of where we're at. And so you're going to hear that there are many gods. There are many gods. It's not just one God. Don't let anybody fool you. There are gods many, and the Bible speaks about that. There is a place where it tells you in the book of, I think it's in Exodus, it says, do not revile the gods. Some will tell you, well, that word God there refers to rulers. I disagree. It says, do not revile the gods. In other words, you got to respect the gods. They have their role that they play on earth. There was a God who was so contrary to the God of the Hebrews, whom we know as Yahweh, El Elyon, El Shaddai. He has all of these titles. There was one of the gods who was opposed to him is one called Baal. And it is believed that part of what's going on there is because the Iranians, I think, burned one of the gods, something to that effect.
Yeah.
I don't have much on this one, but it said that, the Iranians burned one of the gods. Well, at least an image of the gods, rather. And that caused Israel to get upset. That's not really true.
Can I
let me hear you.
ask the question?
Uh-huh.
They talk about Gog and Magog.
Mm-hmm.
It's a prophecy
Uh-huh.
about what's going on. They
Uh-huh.
think that this will be part of the prophecy
Uh-huh.
that is setting up
Mm-hmm.
to be like a third world war.
Mm-hmm. We live to the Battle of Armageddon.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Do you think, what do you think about that? Well, do you think that other nations gonna join Iran to go against Israel? And then from there, America and Israel will really, I'm thinking. Do you think that they will?
Let me just share with you guys what my take on that. The book of Revelation is a very interesting book. When we had the situation with 911, the bombing of the Trade Center, the
Yeah,
the World Trade Center. I think that is written in the book of Revelation, either in Revelation chapter 17 or chapter 18 is where you will find that story. The exact depiction that's given in Revelation is what happened then. It tells you how all the merchants of the world came to the assistance of Babylon. The term used is Babylon in that story because trade came to a halt. And it gives you what they were trading. They were trading in gold, in ivory, in precious metals, and cotton, and all kinds of stuff they were trading in, to include trading in humans. And I'm sure you all have heard a lot about human trafficking, which is how it's a part of the deal going on in the world right now. But anyway, at the time when you had and imagine those towers, the Twin Towers were located in America, but they were called the World, not America Trade Center, the World Trade Center. All of the world was involved. And even perceived enemies of America sympathized with America when, and I should be saying the United States, when that happened. Prophecy is not a respecter of nations or people. Prophecy will tell you like it is. Prophecy was given to the nation of Nineveh. They listened to the prophecy, they changed their lifestyle, and God poured grace upon them. So prophecy relates to all of us in the world today. If we listen to prophecy, we interpret prophecy in the right manner, and we make necessary changes in behavior, we will be accepted with the Creator. So America, the United States of America, began as a God-fearing nation with godly principles in perspective. But that doesn't mean that mistakes were not made. Wars were fought. The Indian tribes, the native Indian tribes, were almost decimated because the two wouldn't come together. There were treaties that were signed at certain points in time, but not before you had major wars between the Europeans who came to America and the Native American Indians. Did that happen only in America? No. In other parts of the world, we had wars that were fought. You know, the Romans had their wars. The Germanic tribes of Europe, they went on conquering places. You had over in China, you had Genghis Khan, Kublai Khan. They were doing their thing all over the world. Human beings got into conflicts. They fought battles. They waged war. It just seems to be part of the progression of human interaction, human affairs in the world. And so, yes, America as a country made some mistakes. I still believe that America has been a blessed nation. And America has given a lot to the world. Does that mean that America is perfect? No. Does that mean that anybody is perfect in the world? There is a saying that says, to err is human, but to forgive is divine. So we're at this juncture where it's likely that we may be at the very cusp, the very point, the point that's going to tip where we're going to have a world war. There is a possibility, a probability. I don't even know which one it is, but we're going to watch the players. That's why I said earlier on when I did my research, what makes people tick? The big guys in power. I would have liked to see the Caribbean nations coming out and speaking. voicing their position that we want peace. We don't want warfare. I would like to see other nations coming out and saying the same thing, but some of them, they're being quiet, and the big boys are the ones doing the talking. And the United States stands tall, and the United States will not allow any nation to bully it or take advantage of its properties. And so I understand that. I'm going to say something that many may not agree with me on that one. I learned years ago that when you're fighting someone, you're fighting an enemy. When the enemy is down, finish him off. Because men have turned their backs on a fallen enemy only to be killed by the enemy. The enemy will strike from behind. You're reaching out to an enemy who's on the ground in a fight, and the enemy grabs a handful of dirt and throw it into your eyes. You're now partially blind. You're trying to, clear vision, and the enemy gets up and puts some blows on you. And so sometimes when you've gone after an enemy, you got to finish the job.
Well, I feel like at this point, they're trying to finish us off.
Well, finish off who?
America, based on what I'm hearing, is they've been preparing for this. I saw a video of, I'm not sure what you call him, the Iranian president, or I'm not sure what the title is that they have for him, but he's saying, come on, we're ready. Y'all trying to bring boots on the ground? We are ready. We have been waiting. They have been planning. Their boots entering the ground in Iran, no matter how you look at it, is not a good thing.
I agree with you. Warfare on the ground with Iranian troops that have been trained and hardened in all kinds of guerrilla tactics out there, it's not going to be good.
I mean,
for American military.
How do you fight someone who has been trained to put on a vest and kill themselves in order to kill other people? Like, that's a lose-lose battle.
Not necessarily, but it's not an easy battle to win. And I would hope that American military personnel have the wisdom to know what kind of battle to avoid. In a war, you got to know which battle you can win and which battle you may lose. And so you go after the battles that you can win.
Right. And so right now they're doing the whole missile thing, and the drones. Their drones cost $20,000 for one of their drone, whereas it costs us millions of dollars to shoot down one of their $20,000 drones. So I'm just looking at how that's impacting the economy just within a few days of spending millions of dollars to get rid of a few drones. That's $20,000 each.
There is a cost associated with the war that's going to be brought to bear upon the citizens of the United States. We're not hearing of that right now, but I'm certain that the analysts, the economists will eventually let us know what it is. For starters, we know that the price of oil has already gone up significantly.
Right.
And people are complaining right now. There is a situation where the United States in particular is trying to make sure that the shipping lines remain clear in the Strait of Hormuz. But then one of the things that the Iranians have been doing, based upon what I read, is that they've been trying to mine the area. And that becomes a major danger to ships. So the US and its allies have to try and see how they can prevent that from happening. It's not easy, but I'll tell you one thing. I believe I can see some strategic movement on the part of the United States and the partners of the United States And one thing I've learned, when David engaged Goliath in a battle in biblical times, after he had knocked Goliath down, he went up to Goliath's body and cut off the head and held the head up to show that, the head has been killed. That was the head of the Philistine army. And once that happened, every man scattered. So sometimes when you're going after enemies, you get rid of the head. You get rid of the generals. You get rid of the decision makers. Once you've destroyed them, it's like if you kill the shepherd, the sheep has nowhere to go.
Well,
So
so is that what happened when Trump came into office and fired everyone and and put different people in place? Because that's what it feels like.
maybe the president certainly has his strategies. We may not agree with them, but perhaps there is a method to the strategies that he employs. He knows exactly what he's about. You know. Now, frankly speaking, I am not in favor of warfare of any kind. I believe that we reach a point in human development where we should be able to sit at a table and resolve our conflicts in a much more humane fashion, if I may. I don't support warfare. However, um, we have a commander in chief, and the commander in chief, he's the one who gives the ultimate directives to the army, the military personnel, and we've got to support the commander in chief. You may not, when you even just you look at a basketball team, um, you may not agree with the captain, you may not agree with the coach, but as part of that team, you have to coordinate your efforts for the betterment of that team to make sure that the team is victorious. And so I'm saying, yeah, we have to stand firm. We have to stand in unity, and that's my position. You know, but we'll see how it goes. I don't know. Um, I hope this doesn't lead to a world war at this point in time. But definitely, we will be impacted. And I would like to say that I would like to see Caribbean leaders in particular, um, and leaders on the state level on the mainland, beginning to advise their constituents in terms of what steps should be taken right now in the Virgin Islands, because when shipping lanes have been disrupted, when supply isn't coming to us, we're going to hurt. So we now should be in a mode where we're trying to produce more at home in terms of food. There are certain foodstuffs that we can, and that holds true for the rest of the Caribbean islands. There are certain foods that we can, get to produce and get how you reap the benefits in a matter of 3 months to 6 months. Let's concentrate on those. Let's see how we can begin to produce food to feed ourselves here at home, so that if supply chains are disrupted, we're going to be okay.
I feel
Um,
like that's easier said than done, especially here in the mainland. It's so difficult for stuff like that because we live in a place where it's illegal to collect rainwater. It's illegal to have certain animals in certain neighborhoods. It's illegal to farm without having all these permits and all this type of stuff. And not only that, people don't know that there's still a partial government shutdown. A lot of people aren't getting paid right now. People at the airport, TSA, all these types of people, they haven't been paid since over a month ago. So
uh-huh.
it's hard to you know start to collect resources and say we want to do this and do that when people aren't getting paid. It's just we're in a time where a lot of things yeah, we want to prep because we don't know what's coming on, what's about to happen, but it makes it so much more difficult to prep when you have so many, things against you. And
Mhm.
so right now, like, what do we do? I'm about to go to the grocery store tomorrow and buy some rice and some non-perishable items. Thank God I can, but what about, so many families who, live paycheck to paycheck and who aren't getting paid, who
Well,
we
make the
it's
sacrifice. Make the sacrifice. I'm stock up on those non-perishable items. You need to stock up. Now is the time to do that.
Well, yes, that's what I'm saying. I am luckily able to do so, but so many families aren't
Yeah.
able to do so. And
Mhm.
that's the problem that we're having. So
Mhm.
many people they if they are going to work, they're not getting paid. Even today at the airport, the lines were over an hour long because people aren't coming to work. They can't afford to put gas in their car to get to work, and it's just
It's
it's
chaos.
just so much
It's
going
chaos.
on.
Wow. Wow. I can imagine the level of anxiety. We don't have that here in the Virgin Islands, at least
For right now.
not yet. We're not experiencing that, but there is a cost. There is a financial cost to warfare, and with American military supplies being depleted through that war, I mean, you got to replenish, and there's going to be a cost associated with that. And it's going to be passed on to constituents, citizens, residents. You got to face it.
And I got to see more people going mental. We have what going on too. Just losing it.
And
Probably acting.
and here in the Caribbean area, we have to be very careful in terms of um, our sources of revenue, because tourism is one of our leading sources of revenue. And with the war, tourism will be impacted. Americans, a lot of Americans come here, but they may choose not to travel as a consequence of being afraid of acts of terror to begin with. Many people might say, "Well, I'm not getting in on a ship right now. I'm not getting on an aircraft because you never know what extremists will want to do." Not only that, people trying to conserve money right now, they're not putting out cash. So that's going to impact us here. As far as tourism is concerned, there are many areas where that will impact us if this conflict is prolonged for much longer. So
Not
I'm hoping
only
that I'm hoping that they're going to bring that to a close in short order.
Right. And not only that, they have already told libraries to stop publishing passports. And there's a thing where people
Wait, wait,
are
let me hear that
trying
again.
to travel.
Let me hear that again.
No, they have told places to stop publishing the passports, and many people who are traveling, they're having an issue with their passports being reported stolen or missing when that is not the case.
Wow.
So we're coming into that situation at this point right now.
Hmm.
It's crazy.
Interesting.
Absolutely.
Well, let me just say this here. I see we've just about gone over the time, but let me just say this here to you. And to those who are listening, those who are viewing, um, you see this whole thing about when we go back to biblical prophecy, people need to understand the times we're living in. Now, it doesn't mean that the end is imminent, and I don't believe that the end is what many people seem to envision. But the mark of the beast is already here with us. The mark of the beast is the entire, how should I put it, is the system of how we do things, how we operate today. It is with it's the internet. It's the internet. It's AI. It's all of that. It's how we think and how we do things. Watch this here. There is the 666 in the Bible. See how 666 correlates with W, W, W. See it? And www, World Wide Web. A web is always something that catches, the spider's web. Internet, a net is another thing that catches, and we're all being caught in the net. We're all being caught in the web. I mean, you got to be very careful. Unlike some people who ascribe to Christian values and principles, I don't believe that once you're living in the world today and being involved in the internet and all of that, that you have the mark of the beast. There is a saying in the Bible that says that you could be in the world, but you're not of the world. So if you don't have that mindset that gets involved in all the corrupt practices, yes, you're in the world, but you're not of the world. So yes, you're around the parameters of the mark of the beast, but that doesn't mean that you have the mark of the beast. And that's how I see it. So, let's try to live right. I want to say something before we close. When I left the studio on Monday, heading home, somebody ran into my vehicle. It's a good thing my foot was on the brake, so I didn't run into the person in front of me. But I immediately switched off my vehicle and went out to see what happened. And it's a good thing I didn't go between the two vehicles, because whilst I was looking, the guy ran into my vehicle again. My wife was still in the vehicle. She pulled up the handbrake, the emergency brake, when she saw that. But the guy had experienced a seizure. When I went to speak with him, he was like, how you say, like throttling at the mouth, and his head was leaned back, tilted to the side slightly, and he was just like, how you say, like he was
convulsing,
like having some kind of an epileptic seizure, like. And of course I panicked. So I went out there asking people, hey, we need some help here. This guy is having a medical emergency. And boy, I see how most people don't give a rat's tail. They were just moving in. Until one lady, a Caucasian lady said, why don't you have a phone, call 911? I didn't have my phone, but anyway, I think she made a call and somebody else made a call. Police officer was driving by, young lady. Her name is J. Edwards, I think is her name. My wife asked her if she could give some help, so she pulled to her side and she came over. When she saw what was happening, she went back to her vehicle. She got a first, whatever kit she had, emergency kit. She came and she began trying to assist. She asked me to help pull the guy from the vehicle to put him on the ground, which she did. And eventually other personnel came, emergency medical services, etc. But that led to something that we really need to teach people here in the schools. In all schools, we should teach people basic emergency response, whether it's with an accident or what have you. We should teach that to people. Now, the guy from the first responders who came, they did ask him, who put the guy on the ground? And I mentioned to him that it was the police officer and myself who put him down. But we did the right thing. That's what should have been done, And so I just think that this should be taught in the school so people know what to do, because I was actually panicking. I didn't know what to do. And until that young lady came, and she was so calm, she was so nice, she was humble. I don't even know how she ended up being a police officer. But she was very professional, very nice, very humble, and she knew what she was doing. And then you had the other one who came to handle the traffic side. Her name is Jada Christopher. I have known her, but I didn't recognize her because I knew her as a child. And she was the one, I thought she was going to put me under arrest. She read my Miranda rights and all kinds of things when, before she got a statement from me. But I'm safe. A dent on the bumper of the vehicle. Of course, the guy was taken to the hospital. His car stayed there with cell phone and everything, but the authorities took care of that. I hope he's okay. He was just coming from dialysis, as a matter of fact. He still had the bandage on his hand, so I'm on his arm. So maybe folks who go for dialysis shouldn't have to drive immediately after. These are all things we need to look at. So I'm just sharing that so people can hear. And of course, we can be proactive in terms of where we go from here. Oh, he passed away?
Yeah.
Oh, wow. All right. Well, I did not even look at that, but Zashi, whom we know very well in the Frederiksted area, I was just showing that he passed away. Wow. So condolences to the family. He lives right there in the Concordia, Campo Rico area. Wow. I just saw him, when was it? About a week or 2 weeks ago, I saw him walking in the area. Well, just being notified that he has passed away, so condolences to the family. Shanice, as you can see, we were having some situations with people being under the weather. And so hopefully by next weekend, everybody's going to be ready to come on board so we can continue our discussions. But it's good to have you on this evening.
Good to be here.
Yep. And so we're going to take it from there. I was really hoping that we would have had this guy Mohammed and the next guy Patrick, but I don't know what happened to Patrick. Mohammed is under the weather. Anu is under the weather. And so you guys have me going into all of this biblical prophecy and what have you. I hope I did a good job bringing the information across. Who's that? All right. So, folks, those of you who were listening on the, viewing, I want to thank you for so doing. We've come full circle. So we're going to close the show off. Hope you guys stay safe, enjoy the weekend, be blessed, and let's all pray that the conflict is resolved and contained, the conflict over in the Middle East. So let's pray for world peace. Mandy?
Good night to everybody. Enjoy your weekend.
All right. Bye.
Good night.